interest is going through the roof as well. And that is getting a lot of universities start to chase this. At Michigan, I'm the director of a program where students in 3 years get 2 degrees. They get an MBA, and they get a master's from the School of Natural Resources and Environment. And it used to be I'd go to the School of Natural Resources and Environment, and they'd look at me and call me a capitalist sellout. And I'd go to the business school, and they'd look at me and call me a tree hugger. And I'd be stuck between 2 worlds. Those stereotypes are stale, and they're old, and they really don't work anymore. Within the environmental community, I described that it's actually cleaving into 2. You have bright greens and dark greens. Dark greens say that the market is the problem, businesses are the problem. The bright greens say the market is the solution, business is the source of that solution. And that's the reality of the world today. And I really try to teach my students that corporations like Coke or Navistar, they're not monoliths. There are people inside these companies that really want to drive it in certain directions to benefit society, to benefit the environment, and make the company more successful. It can be done. There's a lot of cynicism that gets in the way, but these 2 gentlemen sitting here are describing those very motives to really think about the idea of purpose and calling in their work in management, and I think that is tremendously needed and tremendously exciting. Going from that, their personal motivations, I've looked at what we're doing, what's happening around us right now. We're in the midst of an energy renaissance. The funny thing about a renaissance is you don't usually know you're in it when you're in it. You only know it after the fact. You look back and say, wow, something radical just happened, but it's hard to see it when you're in the midst of it. And so, what do you think is driving? Do you think we're in an energy renaissance? If not, why? If so, what is driving it? What is happening around us? I mean, the idea that we can put different things in our tank, our gasoline, car tank, different things under the hood, conceptualize buildings in a different way. To me, something is afoot. What do you guys see from your particular vantage points?
Sure. I produce biofuel. This is something that I think if you would have said even maybe 5-10 years ago in this country, people definitely would have thought this was science fiction, that you can take French fry oil and turn it into something that you could put into a Navistar engine. I mean, 5 months ago, maybe people were still sort of wondering about this. And so it's something where I know there's something different happening. I might look at why this is happening from several perspectives. One, there's a very sort of biological sort of reason that survival is sort of hardwired into every human being. This planet is going from 6 billion to 9 billion within our lifetime. Resources are constrained not only in developing countries, but here in the United States. When you go into certain blighted communities, even let's look at within like Texas or the Southwest. I mean, they're going through almost a drought of biblical proportions. I remember years ago, Mayor Daley was called, I think, from the governor of Arizona, saying, "Could you build a pipeline from the Great Lakes down to Arizona?" Luckily, he was smart enough to say, "No, we're not going to do that."
He said it less politely.
Yes, yes. You might have had Grandma Manuel sort of playbook on how to do that, no doubt. But I think he realized that the fresh water that's in the Great Lakes here, which, by the way, it's 20% of the world's fresh water is in our backyard in the Great Lakes, an incredible resource that maybe we take for granted. That this is something that maybe will, Chicago gets made fun of for its bad weather, but I could see within, let's say, our grandchildren's lifetime, Chicago being the most valuable real estate on the planet because the conditions are just right here. But it's something where I think people realize that there is something happening, and if they want to survive, they will have to change their behavior. Now, to change a community's behavior, well, let's just start with one's personal behavior. It's difficult. To change a community's behavior, now it's exponential. In a country's behavior, it's like, wow. I mean, I feel for the White House right now because this is a monumental sort of shift. But it's something that I think will have to happen. And if nothing else, another motivation is less political and economic and more about what I said about legacy, is that if you have grandchildren today, which I know, Tony, you do, and most people love their grandchildren even more than their own children, if you care about them, this is something that you would care about too. Because ultimately you want to leave something, at least say that you stepped in the right direction. I do this sort of visioning exercise, and it sounds morbid, but it really isn't. I look at my life at the day of my funeral. I'm in the casket, it's all said and done, game, set, match. First question, does anyone even show up? Was I even entertaining enough to anyone want to even bother to come to the funeral? Two, then what's the eulogy going to sound like? He had X number of Mercedes or Rolex watches. No, that's not what people talk about at eulogies. They talk about what do they do for others, your family, for your community, for your country, for Mother Earth, if you will. I think, on a very personal level, that's a strong reason to understand this. And then, obviously, a lot of the economic and political reasons. For a politician to keep a job, and for an executive to say, hey, I helped the bottom line because I switched to biodiesel. These sorts of motivations really affect you at a very sort of personal level. I know this sounds like a really big topic, but if you just think about your own internal motivations, and you can see past your nose a little bit, you'll see that this is the most important topic, and this is mission critical for all of us, for all of our, if you get past the us versus them, this is part of the collective we.
I think you hit on a lot of this morning in your talk. What's driving it is, the press is driving it, the perception in the public of climate change, that's real, that's impacting the environment. The pollution that's going on, like what happened in the Gulf, what happened in Japan a few months ago. The public is really becoming concerned, I think, with the environment. And the other driver is energy. We all know that our gas and fuel prices have gone up. That's had a big impact on us as a society, not only with our cars, but keeping our homes warm in the wintertime and those types of things. And then the other thing, I think most of the population in the United States realizes that we're at war in the Middle East, not necessarily because we're over there trying to help anybody, but because that's securing our energy source. That's where our oil is coming from. We probably wouldn't be there if we were energy independent, energy secure. So I think all of that is coming together at the same time and really raising that awareness and making people feel that we have to do something. They're pressuring their congressmen to do something, to change somehow, to help us out with our energy independence, our energy costs, and ability to not pollute the Earth's environment.
I'm going to ask the next question, and it's not one we talked about, but it just came to mind. I think people would find it interesting, so I'm going to ask the question and I'll talk a little bit so you can think about it. But when you picture out 10 or even 50 years, what do you think the world is going to look like on energy, on truck transport, on mobility? I often get asked, I showed you those 3 waves, and I get often asked, what do you think the 4th wave is? What's coming next? And my answer is that I think that after we sort of develop this idea of sustainability in business, the next wave is about systems thinking. It's about life cycle analysis, about making connections to things that right now seem very challenging beyond our grasp, too complex. Yet I do think that we're going to develop the capabilities, we're going to develop the awareness that, the purchasing decisions I make, I will have a better understanding, especially through information technology, over all the implications of that purchasing decision, and it will inform whether I make it. And we will be much more aware as a species of the interconnections among the different systems and the different things around the world. There's a very academic, conceptual answer, but from the world of business, what do you see as being different in 10 or 50 years?
Can I